How are you, John?
I'm doing good. I'm just hopeful. Hopeful we get the game in the night.
Yeah, before we get to that, though, John, because I always appreciate when you call, and I know that your schedule is very tight since you're going to the game tonight. I know that the call you really wanted to hear wasn't Greg Bird's home run, but it was really this one. This is for you, John.
O'Korn takes the snap, rolls to his right, going for the end zone. Hail Mary,
it's down.
Broken up.
No good.
The Spartans break it up as time runs out. The Spartans win at Michigan, 14-10.
What do you think, John?
Do you know how much laundry I had to do after that game? I mean, do you realize that not only was one of the worst football games I've ever watched, but I'm always on the other side of that. Like, it's not like the history of Favre or Brady, and you know the last drive is going to go your way.
Mm-hmm.
I watched mistake after mistake, and I just still can't believe the game was won. That's probably the third game where Mother Nature has given us a chance to win. And I'm just impressed that you were able to actually play that again. This I'm not kidding you. This has to be more painful than the block punt, because there wasn't much expected, going into that.
No, John, if we really want to get deep into my soul and psyche, that punt, that botched snap, that one particularly hurt, because Michigan State was really, really good, and that was a measuring stick in Harbaugh's first year, and to come out and their first big game and for Paul Bunyan, that one hurt. That one hurt a lot.
Yeah. Well, Again, I can appreciate you being stand-up. I have not heard from one other Michigan fan that has been out there. Not one. I mean, it is like
we ghosted.
They all got new phones,
Witness protection. It was that's so. Congratulations on the big win for your Sparty right there, John.
Well, thank you. And like I said, this year there wasn't much expected from us, so. We'll see if they can sneak out a few more wins.
All right, let's get into the weather report. So it is a concern for the weather for tonight's Game 4 with the Yankees?
Yeah, it's
and Indians?
Every day, obviously, or every moment of the day, it seems to get a little better when you look at the forecast long range. So at least two good things. One, I didn't know that Boston would be playing now, so the fact that they're playing and the weather's been okay there, but we're not in Boston. Tonight is supposed to get a little bit better as the night goes on, because there's a lot of factors that come into this game not being played. Of course, you'd have to play tomorrow, and that changes a lot of strategy for two different managers. So hopefully we get it in. And I anticipated this series from the beginning. Too many people follow the storylines and jump off the ship too quickly. This was going to be a really good series regardless of who won, and it's shaping up to be that way.
Well, I mean, obviously, one assumes the Yankees would have won had Girardi challenged, and that the challenge had gone the way that we all assume that it would have. As any fan of football definitely knows, when you challenge something, anything, it's like a slot machine. You pull the arm, you have no idea what's going to come out, even though you think you see what you see. All that said, how did you take the non-challenge from Girardi on Friday night, John?
Well, yeah, I mean, in the booth, watching the game live, sometimes, look, people forget that, the game moves fast for a lot of people. It's not just players. The managers and the coaches have to make split decisions, have to make decisions that they're either going to not be happy with or be happy with. And I'm not talking about decisions of who to put in and when. Those are obvious, always going to be, second-guessed, and that's part of being a manager today with all the information. But I think as he looks back and as he talked to us, he said, it hurts. He messed up, and it hurts because he's so passionate about everybody. He's not just passionate about his players, front office, the fans. And I think it's just so easy to pile on. Yes, that was a situation where when you slow everything down and look back and go, I should have challenged, regardless of the information I got or didn't get. Having said that, the execution also of a team that has to use its bullpen so much. I've been saying this forever, and the analytical world just turns a deaf ear to it because they don't want these results. They just want to be able to prove they're right all the time. You can't keep doing this kind of baseball and expect you're going to have fresh arms all the time out of the pen. And they paid a price for winning that game with their starter only going a third, and they will continue to pay a price if their starters don't give you more outings like Tanaka. And their bullpen's fantastic. It's the best collection of arms I've seen in a long time. But you still have to trust and get some work out of your starters because that's what makes Cleveland so good.
Yeah, I know. And then CC came out with 77 pitches, and Tanaka. Girardi could have gone to him in the eighth, and instead he went from being up 1-0 with a starter that was lights out to third of an inning later going to his closer for a 5-out save. I mean, talk about dealing from a position of strength, making it into weakness. Again, they got out, they got the 1-0 win. But what's if the rain doesn't arrive, what in the world is Chapman going to look like tonight, John?
Yeah, he'll be available for an inning, I would imagine. I mean, they were from a strength to weakness, no doubt. And the problem that managers have today is there's such an overkill of information, like I just mentioned, where everybody says you have to win that game. And there's a little bit of a lack of trust that the guy that's on the mound currently is legitimately locked in, and you can't lump him in with the previous innings of statistics. What you hear constantly from everyone in the industry is the third time around the lineup, these are the averages. Yeah, maybe on norm, but on a given day you have to trust your eyes at times. I did last night think that was the right decision, however, because of the exertion that Tanaka gave you for the last two innings. He was unbelievable. I've never seen his split with that velocity. So he was literally tapping out and dominating. So I didn't have a problem with that. There's games in the past that have drove me crazy where you take out a starter and the other team in the other dugout is going, thank you, because there's no guarantees that 5 more guys that come in the game are going to have their ace up. The more pitchers you pitch per game, the less likelihood they're all going to be on their game. It's like rolling the dice a little bit, even though there's some great arms. So, Cleveland, you saw this last year. Cleveland was they did an unbelievable job with their pen. They got to the World Series. They had 1.5 starters. They ran out of gas. It became obvious by the 7th game, but they got to the 7th game. The amount of work it's going to take for the Indians to win this series will have its toll. There will be a toll on Chapman tonight. There's no doubt. Joe knows that, but they had to get to tonight. Maybe tonight there'll be a 5-run lead. That's what you hope when you're kind of getting through the individual game, that the next game will take care of itself. Couple
more minutes with the Baseball Hall of Famer John Smoltz of MLB Network and Fox Sports here on the Rich Eisen Show. Dodgers up 2-0. They can go for the knockout blow, and then you've got obviously what's going on in Fenway Park right now in the game that you're calling tonight between the Yankees and the Indians. And this is the best part about postseason play, John, is we could talk about the Cubs this, the Cubs that. They didn't look the same, that they looked pedestrian. But when it all comes down to it, somebody is going to have to knock off the defending champs. And this thing between the Nationals and the Cubs is a slobber knocker. I love it. How do you see the rest of this series playing out?
Yeah, I selfishly wish it was best of 7. But, I selfishly wish every series is best of 7 because that truly is what baseball through 162 games has become. The best of 5, a little bit more of a flip of the coin, less room for error. I love this series. I thought that each series, honestly, in the playoffs this year had the makings of some great drama and some great baseball. But early on, it's surprisingly, a lot of great starters got knocked out. So early on, you got kind of like this bell rung for a lot of teams, and they went right to their pen. Unlike the Cubs and the Nationals, that hasn't been the case, right? They had a gem game 1. It was a really well-pitched game 2. And now you've got what you thought was going to be game 1 starters. I believe it's Scherzer and Arrieta. Is that correct?
It's Quintana, best we can tell right now, unless Arrieta's been
all right. So Arrieta's still backed up. I just think that these two teams, I've loved the Nationals all year. I love their starting pitching. I mean, they didn't get some hitting until in the 8th inning, so that might wake them up. Storylines, I've been in 100 Game 5s series, and you just have to tell the guys in the clubhouse, don't pay attention. Don't fall off the teeter-totter. Like this ain't over, and we're not done, because those storylines switch so quickly. After Game 1 in Cleveland, this series was over. Kluber's going Game 2. Well, you saw what happened. Then Game 3, this is over. Cleveland's going to win. You just can't follow it, and you've got to make your breaks, and you've got to be as prepared as possible to advance, because then once you get to a best of 7 and you lose, there is nothing you can say that team was better than you.
John, always love chatting with you, especially listening to you call a game. You're awesome. And you and Vasgersian were a great listen, and it's just been fun. It's been fun.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
And don't forget, John, who's the Michigan man who presented himself after that loss? Who's that guy who stood tall?
You have no idea what that means and how far slotted everyone else has gone. I mean, they're just like way down there. You have no idea.
Take care, John.
All right.
You got it's John Smoltz.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that video, be sure to download our app, and I'll be sure to move Week 6 games to Saturday for that wedding you have to go to.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that video, be sure to download our app, and I'll be sure to move Week 6 games to Saturday for that wedding you have to go to.